This is Hi-Ho Cherry-O. It was first created by Herman Wernhard and produced by Whitman Publishers in 1960. Today I have an original Whitman Publishers edition, and we're going to compare it to the most recent Hasbro edition, which this one is labeled as a 2013. Now I just purchased this off the store shelf in December of 2025, so it is the most recent that I was able to get my hands on retail, so I think this will be the best comparison. So let's dive right in, starting with the game box on the 1960 Whitman Publishers edition. Right away, looking at the game box, we see some gorgeous hand-painted art, which I'm a huge fan of games of this era that feature hand-painted art. Another one that I liked that was really similar was the 1955 Milton Bradley Candyland. But look at these kids. The detail is amazing. I love the game board in the center there, which if you look closely, even has all the correct spaces on the spinner. I mean, it's really nice box art. There's nothing on the back of the box. It is a lift-off top box, and you will find that they printed the rules on the underside of the lid, which if you've watched my show at all, you know this pleases the couch. I am a huge fan of any time a company prints the instructions of their game on the underside of the lid, especially when it's a game for young kids, as it ensures that the rules will not be lost or destroyed. Now, when we move on to the game itself, more of that art. Just beautiful hand-painted art here. I love the spinner too, right in the middle. You'll notice though the game board is actually a cardboard insert that sits in the bottom of the game box, and then it has these little cutouts to nest each player's bucket for their cherries. Each one of the four cherry trees, is color-coded in the corners here, so you know which player's tree and bucket go together. Now this set is actually missing only one cherry, otherwise it would be complete. And these cherries are kind of neat. They have a sort of like waxed bit of rope for the stem, and then something on the end as a weight that's dipped in like a red shellac to give it that fake cherry look. They are really neat though. It's a neat little game piece. However, over time, some of these cherry stems have started to wear. Some of them have become brittle and are starting to fall apart. But overall, they've seemed to last the test of time quite nicely. The spinner features 4 spaces that have cherries, 1 through 4, for how many that you get to pick if you land on one of those spaces. It also has a space for a dog, a bird, and a bucket. So if you land on the dog or the bird, you lose 2 cherries. So you have to take them out of your bucket and put them back on your tree. If you land on the bucket, you lose all of your cherries. Now there are 7 total spaces, and because of the frustration I experienced playing this with Mrs. Old Crappy Couch the other night, I had to calculate it out, and you have a 41% chance of losing cherries on any given spin. So that's why the game lasts any significant amount of time at all. And you know what, I will say, this is a very interesting way to teach young players frustration tolerance. There are some games like, I'll use Candyland as an example. Candyland has cards that are setbacks to the characters. In Candyland, you're moving along a colored road, so you draw cards with colored squares that tell you which space to move to. Some of the cards have candy on them, and that candy makes you teleport to a space with the corresponding candy shape on it. And some of those spaces can bring you ahead, and some of them can set you back. The most famous of which is Plumpy, the guardian of the Sugar Plum Forest, would take you back near the beginning of the board. And children would get so famously frustrated at that setback that Milton Bradley, or also owned by Hasbro Games, eventually removed Plumpy from the game entirely, and it's only recently that he was introduced back, but he still mysteriously doesn't have such a drawback effect even if you do draw his candy. So it's kind of interesting. Hi-Ho Cherry-O, we go to 1960, and we have, again, I guess the way that they have this spinner set up, you definitely have to be sure that the kids are ready to deal with some frustration, but frustration is such a common thing throughout this game that honestly it kind of rolls off your shoulders in a few minutes. The only reason that I was starting to get annoyed with it playing with Mrs. Old Crappy Couch the other night was both of us were just taking turns landing on the bird or the dog. We hadn't drawn a cherry in like a couple minutes, and we were just sitting there going, oh, this is This is electrifying gameplay, so be warned that with that type of disbursement around the spinner, there could be some good stretches where nobody gets to pick a cherry at all. But it's kind of nice. I mean, it's basic math. You're learning addition, subtraction, and basic counting. The art style is beautiful. The game was enjoyable, albeit, yeah, it was frustrating at times, but I think that's important for kids to learn frustration tolerance. So much like this, or classic games like Candyland, or even Chutes and Ladders, where kids occasionally get set back. These are all exercises in learning how to follow rule sets, learning necessary skills like addition, subtraction. Math is important to gaming. So games like Hi-Ho Cherry-O, Candyland, Chutes and Ladders, a lot of adult gamers might get kind of annoyed at how rudimentary their designs are, but in reality, they are great stepping stones for younger gamers. And I always say these are wonderful bonding exercises for an adult to play a game with a child. They make lasting memories. So don't miss out on playtime with the kids in your life. Now, we're done with that. Let's move over to the 2013 Hasbro edition. Starting with the game box, we have really bright and vibrant art. That girl's arm seems both of her arms seem extremely long to me. But otherwise, it's really inviting. Definitely looks like a lot of fun. When we flip it over, we see an example of an adult playing with a child. So again, we are showing some quality time being had. A brief description of the game and a photo of the game components there as well with the people playing. When we open it up, I do want to note that I do like it's a lift-off top box, but the edges are printed on the box. Very nice there. The rules are not on the underside of the lid. The rules are separate. We get a little piece of bond paper, full color print, not full bleed. Realistically speaking, this side is just here to tell you how to assemble the spinner, and then you flip it over for the rules. The rules are very simple, and I'm not gonna lie, this would be best if just taped to the underside of the lid of the box so you don't lose it. Does its job. It's not folded, so these rules are gonna last the test of time if taken care of, but again, it's a children's game, so they probably won't be taken care of. The spinner is now no longer part of the board. Now we just have the Hi-Ho Cherry-O titling in the center. We also only have the colored corners signified. We're down to 3 players. The colored corners are no longer there, but the colored trees are here. And this is because now, instead of just being cherries, we have cherries, apples, and blueberries. So it's really Hi-Ho fruit salad today. I'm kind of annoyed that they put the branding right in the center of the board, I'm not going to lie. And now we only have 1 cup. And I had to look at this to see if there were gameplay changes. There are not. So players are meant to collect all of their cherries in that cup, to get their cherry, blueberry, and apples in the cup. Okay. We'll get... There are some design things that are not... Okay. So then we look at the spinner, which is now separate. We still have the dog and the bird. We still have the bucket of cherries. Now, what's funny is the bucket of fruit is not overturned like it is in the classic art to show you losing it. Now the fruit is numbered. So on the old edition, you had to actually count how many cherries are there. Now they kind of have a cheat sheet, 1, 2, 3, 4. The spinner's nice. Spinner's well made. Nice chunky plastic. It spins nicely. Nice thick cardboard. So even though it's a separate piece, it's nice. It's nicely made. I do have a bit of a beef with the fruit's kind of a... Hey, are you all right? I don't know. I'm trying to be positive, but you want me to do that for you? Yeah, you know what? Do you mind? Not at all. I do not think that the modern iteration of Hi-Ho Cherry-O produced by Hasbro Games at all lives up to the quality standard set by the original 1960 from Whitman Publishers. Furthermore, I do not like the addition of 2 additional new fruit types, even if it is interpreted as a clever way to separate player colors so that they can combine all of their buckets into one, which becomes a complete pain when you have a small child who has to sort out certain colors of fruit every time they have to put one back. It's frustrating, infuriating in fact. And if I had to imagine a perfect choking hazard, I don't think I could come up with anything worse than this. I don't think the devil himself could come up with anything worse than this. Not only is this tiny, I mean, these are tiny little representations of fruit, but the stem is just robust enough that I can imagine the amount of pain that this would cause getting stuck in a nose or in a throat. At the very least, even back in 1960, these were larger, and the way that these ropes were put on and not rigid plastic, if a child did swallow this, I imagine that they would either be able to be easily retrieved or be able to go down without much resistance with that lacquer. You lowered the age range for the game and increased the hazard. I'm disgusted. Not only that, but removing the spinner just to put there's not even board art. Just another soulless logo thrown into the center there. At least the dog and the bird look pleasant. I'm glad they look pleasant. The kids look relatively happy, albeit they have this weird sort of, even on the side here, you have this kid with like a weird rubber arm. I'm not sure what's up with this. Like she's got like a hand that's as big as... I don't think a lot of effort was put into this, so I'm not really interested in putting a whole lot of effort into the critique. I'm actually feeling a little bit of buyer's remorse, and I'm glad that this was on the show, because at least this way, no grandparents will accidentally waste $10 on purchasing a substandard game for the children in their life who they hold most dear. I would highly recommend that you pick up a copy of Monopoly, the 2025 edition, or perhaps a recent edition of Chutes and Ladders. At least then you can be assured that those games are physically safer for your children to be playing. Instead, we have this soulless rendition of a classic counting game with, dare I say, this art is boring, if you can call it art at all. I am not even interested in putting an affiliate sales link in the description of my video for that game. I don't want to sell it to you. I don't even think it's safe for children to play. The 1960 edition from Whitman Publishing is a beautiful nostalgia trip. It's definitely a collector piece worth tracking down if you love vintage games like I do. But unfortunately, this is a scenario where a classic counting game did not translate very well to the modern age. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm sorry that we had to switch out hosts partway through. The other guy really doesn't like to give negative reviews. I have no such trouble with negativity. Thanks for joining me, and we will see you next time.